Cricbuzz chatter on a day when we saw a result that was considered improbable, not impossible. You never rule that out in a test match anyway, but a result that was considered improbable. But the margin of victory would bring a smile to most English fans, especially after they made that 578 after winning the toss. I thought Joe Root's 2-1-8 will go down as a classic among innings played in India. Then that lead, India only managing 337. England 178, it didn't matter really. And as it turns out, there was more than enough time to bowl India out for 192. I'm going to introduce you to a smile just now. A smile that's coming all the way from England. Former England captain. All yours, Michael. Come on, say what you want. We will be generous today.
Oh, that has to go down as one of England's greatest ever Test match performances. It's only 1-0. There's 3 to play, and we know that things can change, particularly if India win the toss on Saturday. But I just think England played as a team. They look very collective. This Test match team now for a year and a half, and it stems back to after the Ashes series in 2019. They started to play the right way by playing disciplined cricket with the bat in hand, trying to bat for long periods of time, and with the ball in hand, being very smart, very clever, creating different angles. And that's exactly what England did this week. They were too good for India, and I haven't said that too many times when England have played away in Indian conditions, but India, they look like they played as individuals this week. I know they'll get better, but they didn't look to me like they were collectively together, operating as one, whereas England looked like they were all together, all trying to play their roles individually, which helps the team. A brilliant performance from the England team, but I have no question that India will get better after this test.
It's something interesting Virat Kohli said afterwards, and he talks a lot about this, Michael, and I'm asking you this purely as a very successful former captain. He talked a lot about body language in the first innings. Can you sometimes live in the afterglow of an almost impossible achievement? I've heard that said about Olympic champions. They come home after winning an Olympic gold medal, and there's almost, even if briefly, a sense of purposelessness. I've done everything I wanted to. Have you ever experienced that the high that you get can almost take too long to go? Could that be the body language that Virat was referring to?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I remember in 2005, we never really recovered from that series win. We got so much attention, the accolades that came with it. I look back to the 2005 team. We were just a very good team. We weren't an excellent, incredible team. And we really needed to be switched on and almost set out our next goal. And we didn't quite do that. India have to address this performance very honestly in the team room. They have to be, I think Ravi Shastri will have to say a few words to say why. You know, why wasn't the body language as strong as it can be? Why did we look like a team of individuals? The bowling attack, let's be honest, the pitch was flat, but it just lacked a little bit of penetration. It lacked a little bit of what I would say is the Indian way, where they always generally ask the opponent batting lineup a lot of questions. I didn't think they did that. You know, even Bumrah in the first innings, he's not played a lot of cricket. It wasn't the usual Bumrah. You mentioned it, Harsh, after day one. He wasn't at those paces that we'd seen him. So there's a lot of talking for the Indian team to do. Maybe 1 or 2 changes, but it's more about, you know, your mindset, and it's all more about your drive of what you're trying to achieve. You know, Virat Kohli, he's under pressure. He's lost his last 4 test matches as a test captain with a brilliant team. So he'll know that he's under a bit of pressure. I think India will come out fighting. I think they'll come out more aggressive. I don't think they'll be as kind and smiley to the England side. I personally wouldn't be. I think they've got to get to that kind of mechanism of thought that you really need to attack. India are a better team when they're attacking and being more aggressive. I would expect them to be that in the second test match.
Let's go through the pluses and minuses for both teams as quickly as we can, Michael. I thought Virat Kohli's second innings knock was a big plus for India in that it could have an impact on the rest of the series. It wasn't quite as large as Alistair Cook's 100 in the second innings of a losing test in 2011-12, but that innings by Cook showed the other England batsmen you could play. I just think Kohli in form and leading from the front, if that happens in the second test match, that could be a plus. I thought Pujara in the first innings, Pant in the first innings, Ashwin bowled all right. I thought Virat Kohli mentioned that as well. Those were the pluses. You saw something else. Washington Sundar showed he can bat at this level. And Shubman Gill just sort of seems to come out and just look around and, you know, doesn't break a sweat. You never know when he's going to get out, but while he's in, he looks brilliant. Is there anything else that you sort of discovered as a positive for India?
I don't think there are many, to be honest, Harsh. I think India have got to be realistic that you can't be saying there's too many positives when not one Indian batter got 100 in home conditions throughout a test match. I can't remember when that was the last time that it happened. Virat finding a little bit of rhythm, that'd be good for him and the team. Rishabh Pant in the first innings, Shubman Gill, I keep saying he's going to be the next superstar in world test match cricket. Pujara looked great in the first innings. It really is down to getting disciplines right for longer periods, and that's what India didn't have this week. Whether it was with the ball in hand, they weren't consistent enough for long enough on a good wicket, and with the bat in hand, they weren't willing to do the hard yards in the first innings. When you think they lost 4 cheap wickets, not great shots in the first innings, which really sets up the confidence levels of the England side. In the first innings for India, only to get 327 around there, it's not enough. They should have got the 450 like they generally always do, if not 500. And that would have been game, set and match. Got out of here with a draw, but to be bowled out so cheap with 337 in the first innings, that's not enough for an Indian batting line. The second innings with the pitch doing what it did, it was always going to be difficult. But it's that first innings, and particularly that top 5, for the highest score to be 73 on a pitch that was still playing flat. That's not good enough from the Indian side's perspective.
You look at that. There's a 6, a 29, 11, and 1. That's 47 runs among 4 of the top 5 batsmen. That's just not good enough. Virat also made a mention of how the pressure seemed to go off after the seamers and Ashwin had bowled, which was a direct reference to Washington Sundar's off spin, and especially disappointing the left arm spin of Shahbaz Nadeem. I don't always say this, but an vastly experienced Indian first-class finger spinner was out-bowled by a visiting finger spinner, and that's a matter of concern for India.
Yeah, absolutely. They missed Jadeja. He's a rock star. He's an incredible all-rounder. With Ravi Jadeja this week, I do think it could have been a different proposition. He adds so much to the Indian side, but it is what it is. He's not fit, so India have to find a way. I would think that they'll make a change. Maybe Akshar Patel, if he's fit, he'll come in. Maybe Kuldeep Yadav. Whatever it is that they change, they've just got to be more consistently better in all the disciplines of the game. Even in the field, they look a little bit lax. They weren't quite aggressive enough with the ball in hand, whether it was the seamers who are, were the pick of the bowlers with Ashwin. Again, they can be more consistent and they can be a bit more penetrative. They can be a bit more aggressive, when the pitch is at its flattest on day one and a half. India had an off week. It happens. There'll be many of you questioning why it's happened. It's Virat's captaincy. I'm not too sure about that. I think it's just a little bit of a wake-up call. Now and again, really good teams need a wake-up call, and you would expect that the last 5 days has been a wake-up call for the Indian team. Doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter that you're at home playing cricket. You've got to switch on. You've got to switch on, particularly against an England side that are playing really good, strong cricket, particularly in subcontinent conditions.
Now, you've been to India. You follow cricket in India. There have been some outstanding batting performances by England in India over the years. We talk about Alistair Cook, even if you're talking recent years, talk about Alistair Cook, talk about Kevin Peterson, but you have to talk about Joe Root. That first innings 100. I mean, we can look back at it now that the test match is over, and if there's one thing that really stands up there, what happened in this test match? If you want to ask someone 10 years from now, you'll say, Joe Root made 218.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's playing with so much clarity and great technique, great spatial awareness of where he's scoring, the sweep shots, the reverse sweeps, kind of punching it through extra cover. He's in ultimate control. And when you have that as a player and then you're leading the team, it's a great feeling. And Virat Kohli's had that in his time, and he may have it in the second test match. But Joe Root in the first 3 test matches of 2021, for 3 consecutive matches as a leader and a batter, I don't remember an England captain being so dominant over the course of 3 matches consistently. And it's been his performances that have got England over the line in 3 consecutive test matches.
Surely you can't stand on the peak that long, Michael. Surely you can't stay at that peak that long.
Well, you probably think that it will come to an end, but he's done it. He's got the hat trick. He may try and do it a 4th time starting next Saturday, but he's become a great leader. He's got real clarity about the way that he operates now. I think Chris Silverwood, the New England coach, or has been in the job a year and a half, has made a massive difference to him. And they're playing Test match cricket the right way. So even in the last year and a half, when they've lost games to the West Indies, South Africa, it's not been because of their style of cricket. It's because the opposition have played better. And over the next 3 weeks, India, I'm sure they'll have their time. I'm sure they'll beat England in a Test match or two. The pressure almost now is on England, that we at home is thinking, go on, do it again. Go and beat them again.
Top of the table now, almost, with a chance to play that World Test Championship final at Lord's. Can you imagine England versus New Zealand playing the final of the World Test Championship? But you cannot go on a boundary count back on that one.
Oh, don't worry, we'll make something up to make sure that we win that game as well.
But look at that, England 442 points up there. For India to get there, they can win the series 2-1 if they're not docked any more points on for over rates or whatever. But 430, India have got a mountain to come back. There were 2 or 3 other performances, Michael, I wanted to ask you about, and one in particular. Dom Sibley. I mean, I looked at him initially in Sri Lanka and I said, Dom Sibley now. Maybe you'll play Zach Crawley in his place. As it turned out, there was no Crawley. I thought Ben Stokes' 82 on the second morning didn't get talked about as much. I thought it made a huge difference that morning to prevent India from coming back. So there have been these few performances, Best in the first innings, Leach in the second. But what about that old man who never gets old? He's been playing. I mean, you were playing and he was playing at the same time. He's still playing. I
reckon there's 2 Jimmy Andersons. I reckon he's got 2 of himself, because he just looks younger and younger and fresher and fresher. I think he has one that he stores in a fridge freezer and brings him out, and then he puts the other one back in the fridge freezer, and he can kind of just change them every month. He's an incredible bowler. I mean, there's so many things you can say about him, but it's more his desire to keep going and improving. I think that's the lesson that he sends to everyone in life, that doesn't matter the age, that's just a number. I totally agree with that. I think England have managed both Broad and Anderson brilliantly in the last year and a half. They've made the decision to just play one of them. If they have to play both, it's because they've had injuries, or I guess they've had a week where the conditions have been purely suited to that style of bowler. So the management's been very good, but it's his desire, Harsha. He just wants to keep getting better and improving. He loves playing the game. He loves being a part of winning teams. He was a part of the team that won there in 2012. He was a part of the Ashes win down under in 2010-11. And it's a similar kind of scenario, that England are getting themselves in a position of having a really strong Test match team that potentially could win in India. Still a long way to go. I still think India are favourites to win the series. Beating India at home, potentially getting to the Test Championship, and then later on in the year to be a part of an England team that gets those Ashes back. That's what it's all about in English cricket. And they've made a great start in 2021. But as I said, the pressure's on now, because we all expect that this year is going to be the great year for the Test team, because they've played such good cricket so far.
Did you jump out of your seat when Gill and Rahane's stumps went flying? Because that was just incredible bowling. I mean, there was 3 balls in that over. I mean, that run, that LBW was gone by about that much.
Yeah, and it's the reverse swing back into the right hand. It's just it's his subtle change of pace. So he knows with the reverse swing, if you bowl it at the same pace, any batters that's worked their salt will kind of just work that out. But he just changes his pace subtly. So those balls that end up bowling both Shubman Gill and Ajinkya Rahane, he just puts that extra little bit of oomph, that extra little bit of pace. So it catches the batsman on the crease. It goes through them, a bit quicker than expected. And that's experience and skill. The understanding, his record in subcontinent conditions is exceptional. It was only 5 or 6 years ago, there was many saying, he can't bowl away from England. Nonsense. He can pretty much bowl anywhere on any pitch with any ball. He bowls with I guess the one thing that he would like to answer is his record in Australia. He was a part of the 10-11 team that won there, but since then, England have lost 5-0 and 4-0. And Jimmy Anderson, Stuart Broad have had no effect whatsoever in Australian conditions. Jimmy got a 5 for in Adelaide with the pink ball the last time round. Other than that, he's not had a great deal of effect. And you just feel that he wants his final swan song. I think he'll be 39 by the age that England get down to Australia. But I think he wants to put a few of those kind of doubts to mind and have a real final, last fantastic Ashes tour. And who's going to back against him?
Yeah. Is there an issue with a couple of key Indian players, in your opinion, Michael? Put yourself captain of India. You've just had an Indian captain coming back with the biggest high of his life, one of the great hundreds that an overseas captain has scored in Melbourne. He's coming back, but the old inconsistency starts to dog him again. Post that 100 in Melbourne, he's not scored as many runs. His home average after 28 test matches is still just 37. Is there an issue in the middle with Rahane and at the top with Rohit?
Yeah, I mean, I just look at those numbers. I mean, to average 37.35 in home conditions, whereas, you know, Harsha, the wickets are generally very flat. They're not great numbers for a high-class right-hand batsman. His away record is outstanding. I remember that 100 he scored at Lord's a few years ago when the ball was, I mean, the pitch was like a farmer's field. It was that green. Brilliant 100. India won the game. I don't know. I mean, he generally makes mistakes. I mean, the first innings, he danced down, gets caught extra cover to the off spinner. That's a mistake. Second innings, he gets a good ball from Jimmy Anderson. But I just think he makes too many mistakes. And Virat Kohli getting runs. If it had been the other way around this week, that India would have lost and Ajinkya Rahane had scored runs, there'd have been even more pressure on Virat Kohli. The fact that Ajinkya Rahane's form and, you know, his inconsistency with the bat keeps popping up. I don't think there's going to be an ultimate threat on Virat's captaincy until that happens. If Ajinkya Rahane suddenly scores lots of runs and Virat continues to struggle as a Test captain, well, the pressure will build up. But India have just got to go back to the basics, be really clear on what they're about as individuals, be clear about what they're trying to achieve as a team. How did they win in Australia? Even though they had lots of changes to the side, it was because they were collectively very tight and together. And this Indian side, I always believe that they play better cricket when it's backs to the wall. You go back to Australia, no one gave them a chance. Backs to the wall, we come out fighting. Ravi Shastri will be making one of those Churchillian style speeches in the we will come back fighting.
No, Michael, do a Ravi. Come on, do a Ravi.
I can't impersonate it. Whatever he's doing, he's probably having a glass of red wine now just to kind of calm the nerves that the Indian side are 1-0 down. He'll know that his team have got to do it again. They're going to have to do it the hard way. In Australia, there's no harder place to come back from 1-0 down. You've been bowled out for 36. They did it. The team have been asked that question once again because they've played poorly. Can they bounce back in the next 3 Test matches? Pretty sure they can, but this England side, they'll take some moving. I do think they're going to take some moving because they've got a lot of character and a lot of spirit. And when you get that with the likes of Anderson, Stokes, Root in prominent kind of form, the one thing I say from the England side, and I hope it changes, and I hope they're changing it now, I can't believe Joss Buttler wants to go home. I cannot believe that Joss Buttler wants to be leaving an England side that's 1-0 down, 1-0 up in a series. They're playing on the same venue next Saturday. Surely he plays at least the next game, at least one more Test match, and then go home. Miss the one days, miss the T20s. This is very special that if England can win in India, it will be very much similar to India winning in Australia recently. It's that big a challenge to go and win in these kind of parts of the world. Surely Joss Buttler wants to be playing that second Test match at least to try and make England go 2-0 up.
If I was Stuart Broad, I'd be going down peering at that pitch. I think he would have bowled excellently on this pitch because he's just the right kind of bowler for this. So we've got a combination of fast forward because we've got to look ahead, but also in the hot spots is Michael. Now, where do you place this England victory and what does it mean for the 3 Test matches to come? Is the pressure now on England almost to try and deliver a series win? But what does this win mean now for England? This outstanding overseas record that is now starting to build up, 6 overseas wins in a row now. Look at the Big 4, look at Test matches at home. England tend to lose matches at home. Australia lost matches at home. India hardly ever lose matches at home. So to do that, where did they go from here?
Well,
India lost 5 games. That's it.
Winning in India, yeah, winning in India is the ultimate challenge. You know, the ultimate prize in English cricket is to win the Ashes down under, but to win in India, I think, is the hardest place of all to go and win a Test match series. So if England can do that, it will be remarkable. There's not often that you can say the only negative in a Test match performance in India is the fact that potentially you look back and think England didn't get that final session on day 4 right, where they batted on a bit too long, declared a bit too late, but it didn't matter at the end of the day because they bowled India out so cheaply. It was a 10 out of 10 performance from the England team. Can they do it again in the next Test? It'll take some doing to match what they've just done over the course of the last 5 days, but they definitely have something going. It's the first time this last year, for a long, long time in England's Test match team, that I watch them and think they are playing the right way. They've got the right pieces in the right places. They've got a lot of experience. When you think Anderson, Broad, Stokes, Butler, Root, they've got a lot of experienced players now. They've played a lot of cricket. They're in a good position, in a good place. But India will bounce back, Harsh. I mean, we can't speak too soon. I can't sit here and say England are going to win the series, because I still don't think they will. I still think India will bounce back and win. But we can certainly celebrate what's been a fantastic Test match performance by England over the last 5 days.
This team has been picked for 2 Test matches. What happens? Does Johnny Bairstow come back? Does someone else come back? Does someone else go home? Is that it? This is the side now for the next 4 Tests, next 3 Tests?
No. So Johnny Bairstow and Mark Wood and Sam Curran come back for the last 2 games. Joss Butler's gone. They made the decision that he was going to play the first Test match, which surprised many of us. Understand the bio bubbles, completely get that. But when you're playing the best team in the world, in my opinion, in their own backyard, and you go 1-0 up, surely you have to be flexible to change. You know, Ben Folkes will start on Saturday. He's not played any cricket. England are 1-0 up, and you're going in with a keeper batter that hasn't played any cricket. You know, he's a very good keeper, a good batter. But in Joss Butler, Joss has a fear factor on the opponents. You ask the Indian dressing room about Joss Butler, they fear him because they know that he can change the course of a game.
I thought he kept well too. Some of the mistakes on a last day turning track.
Yeah, I just hope they're flexible. I hope they're flexible and they can just change their thought pattern into thinking. If Joss needs time at home again, I understand that, but just let him miss the 1 days and the T20s. Joss Butler, if he misses a T20, it has no kind of impact on him or the team, because he's that good a T20 player. He'll come back in and be a part of that T20 World Cup. But missing Test matches in India when you're 1-0 up, not too sure I'd want to miss those, Harsh.
Just a passing thought. Look at what's happened in the last couple of months. India beat Australia in Melbourne. England beat India in Chennai. West Indies beat Bangladesh in Chattogram. Suddenly, matches are going into the 5th day. Difficult things are happening. India win in Brisbane. In the last 2 months, there have been 4 incredible away wins. Why? What's happening? Have people forgotten how to win at home? Are people finding it easier to travel? Are people saying, well, the odds are against us, we're discovering energy, but there is something different happening?
If there's one real positive from COVID, it's been that.
I know.
It's had an effect on Test cricket. We've had some incredible Test matches. Even the IPL, it was extraordinary standard of cricket that we saw. I just think we're in an era. I mean, I think no crowds is helping. I do think that. I think the fact that the home team doesn't have that support certainly helps. But I just think we're in an era of cricket where anything's possible. You go back to the World Cup final. You go back to Headingley in 2019 and the Ben Stokes chase. You know, anything seems to be possible. And these players are drilled into believing that. They've got all the sports psychologists around the room. They seem to stay very, very calm and relaxed under the pressure situations. And by doing that, it allows them to do extraordinary things. I mean, in my time, it was always fearful that you just didn't have a chance. You know, if you were chasing 400, it was like, well, you've got no chance. Can you just survive and hopefully get a draw? But these players just believe that, you know, they can do the kind of impossible, which makes for great viewing. It's been a wonderful 6 to 10 months of international cricket. And I think we're in for another 3 great games in India. I just think this next game is such an important one. It's such an important toss because whoever wins it will have an advantage. England will be desperate to win that toss, get runs again. And then it's the pink ball game. And England will be delighted if they go to the pink ball game 2-0 up. If it's 1-1, well, it could be a different story.
Well, I've seen one pink ball game. That was in Kolkata. And sometimes the smog was affecting visibility. But let's not jump that far ahead. But you make a very valid point about maybe they're looking at each other and this can-do thing is happening. Okay, they could do it, so I can do it. And then there's, I thought the story of the week didn't actually come from India. It came from Kyle Myers' father, who says, okay, let me watch my son bat for a while. And then he bats and he can't sleep all night because his son's made a double on debut. There's great things happening in Test match cricket, and we'll talk about that and much more when we come back on Cricbuzz Chatter with Michael Vaughan. We're going to let him have a nice evening, let the glow of this win just settle in before the Empire strikes back in Chennai and 2 in Ahmedabad. I thought I'd leave you with that little slate, Michael. But